Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty huge. We're aiming to map out, well, the ultimate blueprint, the structure of the divine throne. The source material calls it the Boza.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just abstract theology, It's about celestial governance, the very mechanics of divine authority.
Right.
We're going to try and peel back the layers,
Okay.
looking mainly at Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelation, to see the physical reality, the identities, the whole hierarchy around this central point.
It's a big task, definitely. And it means we have to be really careful with the sources, connect the dots properly.
Yeah.
Our goal really is to link these massive eternal visions with the models God gave us on earth, like the tabernacle.
Exactly. The temporary reflecting the eternal.
We want to understand not just what God's authority looks like, but how it actually works. Structurally, relationally, both in eternity and, crucially, here in our space-time.
Absolutely. You're listening today and you want that deeper understanding. That's what we're aiming for, a clear map of these intricate patterns that govern the spiritual realm. We're looking for those connections, like how does the fire from Isaiah's vision link to the altar? Where does the cosmic layout become clear?
And what's fascinating here is that we're essentially exploring the fundamental principles of divine law and order. It's not just about a chair.
No, far from it.
The throne's structure, its architecture, is tied directly to the very foundation of that law. Things like justice, righteousness, and underlying it all, love. If we can map this out, even partially...
That's a huge insight, right?
Exactly. Huge insight into how God actually engages with creation.
Okay, so let's start right at the very top. Who or what is occupying this throne? Daniel gives us this incredibly powerful ancient image in Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. He calls him the Ancient of Days.
Yes.
Our material clearly identifies this as the first person of the Godhead. And the description...
It really is breathtaking. It hits you with this sense of pure, unapproachable age and judgment. His clothes white as snow, his hair like pure wool.
That whiteness. It speaks of purity, justice, eternity, doesn't it? Something utterly unstained.
Precisely. But it doesn't stop there. The throne itself is described as a flame of fire, and its wheels, also burning fire.
So the fire isn't just symbolic decoration. It's active. It's judgment. It's holiness. It ties right into that idea of God as a consuming fire.
It does. And this is where it starts to get complex, analytically speaking, because we get another description much later in Revelation chapter 1.
Yes. John's vision.
John sees the Son, the second person of the Godhead, often called the Son of Man, and the description is, well, strikingly similar in parts.
How so?
The Son is also seen wearing a long robe, he has a golden sash, but then you get the eyes like fire, feet like polished bronze, and crucially, hair that's white as snow, like the Ancient of Days.
Okay, yeah. White hair, fire. If you just glanced at both passages, you might think, okay, same person.
You might, but the source material is really insistent here. We have to make a critical distinction. It's vital.
So why isn't that similarity proof? I mean, it seems pretty strong on the surface. Why aren't they the same individual?
It boils down to the difference between, let's say, essence and personhood. The similar appearance, the white hair, the fiery eyes, the radiance it points to them sharing the same divine nature.
Okay. The fundamental stuff of God.
Exactly. They are equal in essence. That's why the Son, Christ, is called the image of God in 2 Corinthians. He perfectly reflects the Father. They are, in their divinity, co-equals.
Co-equals in nature, but not the same person.
Precisely. The Ancient of Days is not the Son of Man. They are distinct persons within the Godhead, and understanding this distinction is absolutely key for everything that follows, especially regarding authority.
Got it. So let's explore that relationship then. How does it play out across eternity versus our reality space-time?
Right. So in the eternal realm, timeless, boundless, infinite, the source suggests that the first and second persons are inherently equal. There's no subordination based on rank or position there.
Aye.
In fact, the material hints at something quite profound, a deep mutual submission. It references Philippians 2, where the Son didn't consider equality with God something to, cling to or grasp.
Mutual submission with an equality?
Yeah.
That's hard for our minds to grasp, isn't it, as creatures in a hierarchy?
It really is. It suggests this constant flow of honor between them that doesn't diminish either one. But then, like you said, we hit this massive pivot point, the entry into space-time.
When the second person becomes incarnate.
Exactly. When the second person chooses to enter creation, to become a creature, to be born into our temporal, finite world, his role undergoes a dramatic shift. He willingly, voluntarily, takes on a position of subordination.
He becomes the son of the first person.
Yes. And in that specific temporal role, submission becomes, well, necessary. It's part of the mission. He says it himself in the Gospels, like John 5. I can do nothing on my own initiative. He only does what he sees the Father doing.
That's the incredible condescension, isn't it? The creator of everything, Colossians 1, tells us that voluntarily shows up in time as a creature, even a servant, like in John 13.
It's fundamental. This voluntary change in status, this temporal hierarchy, it's absolutely essential for the whole plan of salvation and, looking ahead, for how authority eventually gets transferred.
Okay, and this also helps us understand how the infinite God even manifests himself to finite beings like us, right? Because prophets like Daniel and Ezekiel, they weren't seeing God's raw, unfiltered essence.
No, exactly. 1 Timothy tells us that essence dwells in unapproachable light. What they saw was a structured, mediated vision, antheudo, as the source might put it. Creatures like us, stuck in space-time, we can only perceive what God chooses to reveal.
Right, Ephesians 3 talks about that revelation.
Yeah.
So before the Son became human, how did God appear? Like Moses at the burning bush. That's a classic example.
Yeah, good question. The material points out that before the incarnation, God often manifested through a figure called the angel of the Lord, or simply an angel acting on behalf of God's name. Exodus 3, Acts 7 mention this.
So, a representative.
In a sense, yes, representing the divine image, carrying the divine authority. Ezekiel 1 touches on this kind of representative glory. The core idea is that God's name is placed upon the throne, as Ezra 6 says.
Okay.
And any manifestation to creatures carries that specific name, that authority, that image. So whether it was a pre-incarnate appearance of the Son or an angel empowered with the name the principle holds, the infinite is always mediated to the finite through a chosen, structured form. God controls the revelation.
That control, that structure, seems key to the whole architecture. Okay, so we had the occupant, fiery, eternal, distinct person sharing one nature. Now, who or what is around this seat of power? Who supports it? This brings us to section 2, the celestial architecture itself. The engine room, maybe?
Engine room. I like that. Yeah, this is where John's vision in Revelation and Ezekiel's visions really start to overlap and show us the mechanics. We have to start with Revelation 4.
The 4 living creatures.
Exactly. The Nesengmal in the source's terminology. John sees them around and in the middle of the throne. Covered in eyes, front and back, they have 6 wings.
6 wings, that's important.
Very. And their entire existence seems focused on this relentless, constant proclamation, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. They embody pure, focused worship right at the epicenter.
Okay, now let's bring in Ezekiel, because his vision involves similar beings, traditionally called cherubim, but there were differences, aren't there?
Big differences, or at least apparent ones. Ezekiel's cherubim, especially in chapter 1 and 10, are described with 4 faces. A man, a lion, an ox or calf, and an eagle.
Representing different aspects of creation, perhaps. Intelligence, majesty, strength, speed.
That's the common interpretation, yes. But here's a key detail the source highlights. Ezekiel says they have 4 wings, not 6.
4 wings versus 6 wings. That's not a minor discrepancy when you're talking about angelic blueprints.
Not at all. And the source really pushes us to analyze this. Are John and Ezekiel seeing the exact same creatures, maybe just from different perspectives or emphasizing different aspects?
Could they be different types of angelic beings?
That's the other strong possibility. Because we also have the seraphim described by Isaiah in chapter 6, and Isaiah specifically mentions they have 6 wings.
Right. 2 covering the face, 2 covering the feet, 2 for flying. That matches John's description perfectly.
It does. So it's highly plausible that John saw seraphim, the burning ones, whose primary role is declaring God's holiness right there at the throne, while Ezekiel saw cherubim maybe focused more on mobility and power.
Or maybe, as the source suggests, they're the same class but revealed differently. Perhaps cherubim have hidden wings or aspects not always shown. It's hard to be definitive.
It is. The visions are symbolic and intensely packed. But whether they are seraphim or cherubim or aspects of the same beings, the material emphasizes their core function is unified in service to the throne.
Okay, so what is that core function, especially for the cherubim, as Ezekiel describes them?
Mobility, power in action. They are the throne's mobile support system. They're not just static guardians, they are the vehicle. The throne moves.
Ah, that's right. The Psalms talk about that, don't they? God rides on a cherub in Psalm 18. He makes the clouds his chariot in Psalm 104.
Exactly. The cherubim are the living mechanism. They translate the will of the Ancient of Days, the occupant of the throne, into movement and action throughout all creation. Their wheels within wheels, the eyes, it all speaks of swift, intelligent, all-seeing execution of divine purpose.
So the source is saying God specifically designed the cherubim to carry the throne, like in Ezekiel 1. They surround it, they serve the name and the glory of God, as Ezekiel 10 says.
That's the assertion. They uphold the name, the authority placed upon that throne. Their complex nature, those four faces embodying all creation's strengths, signifies that creation itself, in its highest forms, submits to and carries divine authority.
Wow.
They ensure God's manifested glory goes where he wills, precisely and instantly. They are, as you said, the engine of cosmic movement and governance.
Okay, occupant identified, engine room explored. Let's zoom out a bit now. What's the wider celestial structure, the sort of cosmic geography that contains all this? The source material lays out a really fascinating layered structure, especially thinking about where evil, or Satan's criminal group, as it puts it, is contained.
Yes, it proposes a distinct three-tiered cosmic structure. It defines boundaries, jurisdictions, almost like spiritual zones. At the very bottom layer, you have Hades, or Umbu,
Okay, the underworld.
but described using terms from Genesis 1. Confusion, void, deep darkness. It's portrayed as the ultimate prison, the place of chaos and confinement where Satan and the fallen angels are bound or held until the final judgment. Think Jude, verse 6. It's characterized by the absence of divine order and light.
A place of binding and darkness. So if that's the bottom floor, what's directly above it? Is there a barrier?
There is. According to Revelation, directly above Hades is the glass sea. Remember, John saw this sea like crystal before the throne in Revelation 4, and again in Revelation 15.
Yes, mixed with fire in chapter 15.
Right. This glass sea acts as a kind of boundary layer, crystalline, maybe reflective, separating the chaos below from the order above. And critically, the source connects this to where the Spirit of God operates, hovering over the waters, just like in Genesis 1.2 at the dawn of creation.
So it's a zone of mediation, holding back the chaos, allowing for divine operation.
Precisely. A protective boundary, a place of initial ordering, keeping the corruption below from contaminating the realms above.
And then topping this structure, the third layer.
That would be angel heaven. This corresponds to the sanctuary, or the holy place in the earthly model. It's the realm where the faithful angels serve God, the place of light and active worship.
Hades, glass sea, angel heaven. Okay. Now, the really powerful insight here is that this isn't just abstract cosmology. God gave us a physical model, didn't he?
He did. The tabernacle and later the temple. The source really hammers this point home, citing Hebrews 8.5. The tabernacle was a copy and shadow of the heavenly reality. It wasn't just a tent, it was a blueprint, a tangible lesson in how divine authority works and how redemption unfolds.
So let's do the mapping. How do these cosmic layers match the tabernacle's layout? Starting at the bottom, Hades, the realm of judgment and chaos.
Yeah.
Where does that fit?
That corresponds to the brazen altar in the outer court.
The altar of burnt offering.
All right.
Why there?
This connection is absolutely central to the source's interpretation. The brazen altar is where the sacrificial animal was consumed by fire. That burning, that consumption, symbolizes the necessary judgment and destruction of sin and sinners. Psalm 37 speaks of the wicked perishing like smoke. Humanity, aligned with Satan's rebellion, deserved that fiery judgment, the lake of fire, which Matthew 25 mentions is prepared for the devil and his angels. The altar represents the place where that judgment, the curse of the law, is enacted. It's the burning place mirroring the spiritual prison of Hades.
Wow, that gives the outer court a much grimmer feel than just, ritual sacrifice. It's the place of potential annihilation.
It represents the justice required. But then, moving inward.
We have the laver, or the bronze sea in the temple, the basin where priests washed.
Exactly. And that corresponds perfectly to the glass sea. It sits physically between the place of judgment, the altar Hades, and the place of service and worship, the holy place, angel heaven.
So cleansing,
Yep.
separation.
Yes. It represents the necessary purification. Just as the glass sea acts as that reflective, separating boundary, the laver provided the means for ritual cleansing. Priests, representing humanity, had to wash there before they could approach the holier areas. You can't bring the contamination of the outer court, representing the world under judgment, into the place of service without cleansing.
Makes sense. And then, naturally, the holy place itself with the lampstand, the table of showbread, the altar of incense that maps directly onto angel heaven.
The realm of light, sustenance, prayer, and constant service before God. The parallels are quite direct.
So the whole layout was teaching something profound. But you mentioned redemption. How does the atonement fit into this model?
This is the crucial overlay. The tabernacle structure exists because justice demands that the sinner burn, like the sacrifice on the altar. That's the default. But God provided a way out.
Through substitution.
Yes, and this brings us right back to the second person. Humanity deserved to be consumed on that altar, metaphorically speaking, along with Satan's faction. But the Son entered the system. He became the substitute.
The Lamb. Revelation 5, the Lamb standing as though slain.
Exactly. He willingly stepped onto that place of judgment, the brazen altar, and took the fire himself. By absorbing the curse, the judgment fire that should have consumed us, he redeemed us from that curse, as Galatians 3 says.
So the fire of the altar, symbolizing Hades and judgment, is transformed.
Through his sacrifice, yes. For those who reject him and cling to sin, that fire remains pure judgment. But for those who accept the Lamb, that same fire becomes the fire of purification and deliverance. The tabernacle isn't static. It's a dynamic map of this cosmic conflict and the rescue plan, all anchored in the reality of judgment and substitution.
All right, we've moved through the outer court, past the laver, through the holy place. Now we're heading into the absolute center, section 4, the foundation of governance itself. We're talking about the Holy of Holies, and specifically the Ark of the Covenant, topped by the mercy seat or the atonement cover.
Yes, and remember what's inside the ark, beneath that mercy seat.
The tablets of testimony, the 10 Commandments. Exodus 25 tells us to put them right in there.
Exactly. And that placement is profoundly significant. It establishes the absolute unchanging foundation of God's rule. The Psalms, like 89 and 97, state it clearly. The foundation of God's throne is righteousness and justice. Mishpat and Tzedekah.
Okay, law and order at the very core.
But the source immediately adds a crucial layer, drawing from Romans 13. This righteousness and justice ultimately flows from and is fulfilled by the commandment of love. Love is the fulfillment of the law. So God's governance isn't just rigid rules, it's based on this perfect, unwavering combination of love expressed through perfect justice.
Love and justice. Mercy seat covering the law. But this creates a serious tension, doesn't it? Because approaching this place seems incredibly dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. Because the throne is founded on perfect justice, sin simply cannot survive in its immediate presence. To try and approach the mercy seat while carrying unforgiven sin or representing sin, well, Leviticus 16 is stark. It results in death. Swiftly.
God is a consuming fire, as Hebrews 12 reminds us.
Precisely. The judgment against sin must be executed because of God's very nature. If you identify with the rebellion, with sin, you face the fire. It's why the cherubim with the flaming sword guarded the way back to the tree of life after the fall access requires passing through divine justice first.
Which brings us to the high priest's unique role, and specifically the incense ritual. He couldn't just walk into the Holy of Holies.
No. Leviticus 16, again, he had to take coals of fire from the brazen altar.
The altar of judgment.
Yes, take that judgment fire, put incense on it, and let the smoke create a cloud, a screen, to cover the mercy seat before he went behind the veil.
What's the symbolism there? Using judgment fire to approach mercy.
It's this incredible merging of justice and intercession. The fire from the altar symbolizing judgment, the consequences of sin. Even Hades becomes the very means to carry the incense smoke upwards. And that incense smoke, Revelation 8 explicitly links it to the prayers of the saints.
Wow, so the prayers of God's people are carried towards the throne by the fire that represents judgment.
That's the picture. And these aren't just gentle requests. Revelation 5 mentions golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And in Revelation 6, the martyrs under the altar are crying out, "How long, O Lord?" They're calling for vindication, for judgment on injustice.
So these prayers, collected in those bowls, are actively pushing for the resolution of justice.
The source argues strongly, yes, they're not passive. These prayers ascend, fueled by the reality of judgment, the fire, and they drive towards the final completion of atonement and the execution of justice. When those golden bowls are finally poured out in Revelation 15 and 16...
That signals the final judgments, right?
Exactly. It's the culmination. The prayers of the saints are shown to be intrinsically linked to God finally acting to wrap things up. resulting ultimately in sin, death, and Hades being dealt with permanently in the lake of fire, as Revelation 20 describes.
The whole system, the architecture, the law, the sacrifice, the judgment fire, the prayers, it all seems to converge on one person.
It does. The second person, Jesus Christ, he is the true temple, John 2 says. He is the ultimate tree of life. And this convergence leads directly to the final, decisive transfer of governance and authority.
How does that work? He came in the Father's name.
John 5:43, yes. And because he came in the Father's name, perfectly representing him and obeying him, he therefore inherits the Father's authority. Matthew 28:18, all authority has been given to me. And the source is very clear, pinpointing Philippians 2 again. This authority isn't just inherent, it's officially acquired and demonstrated through the ultimate act of submission, the cross.
His obedience unto death.
Yes. Because he humbled himself, became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross, therefore God highly exalted him and gave him the name above all names. This act fundamentally shifts how divine governance operates within space-time.
Okay, let's unpack that shift. How does it change things practically, especially regarding prayer and access? You mentioned before the cross, Jesus in his humanity might petition the Father for angels, like in Matthew 26.
Right, operating under that temporary voluntary subordination. But after the cross and resurrection, his exaltation means that hierarchy is, in a way, fulfilled and transformed. Having perfectly obeyed and thus inherited the Father's name and authority, Hebrews 1 says, he's the heir of all things, now all creation, including angels, authorities, powers. They're subjected directly to him. 1 Peter 3 makes this clear.
He sits at the Father's right hand, sharing the throne, as Revelation 3 says.
Yes. So the dynamic changes for believers, too. We're no longer approaching the Father only through a mediating high priest in the same way. Now, empowered by the Holy Spirit, whom the Father sends in the Son's name, John 14:26.
We could approach the Son directly.
Yes, and ask in his name, John 16:26. The access is direct, based on his finished work and his current authority. It's the ultimate transfer complete. The Creator who became a creature now holds total authority over the creation he redeemed.
And that authority is absolute.
Total. The source underscores this. Every creature, even the highest angels who served the name before the incarnation, must now worship the Son who took the form of a creature, Hebrews 1:6.
And judgment.
The Father has committed all judgment to the Son, John 5:22. Any resistance, like Satan's attempts during the temptation which ultimately had to yield, Luke 4, leads to eventual total defeat in that judgment fire. The architecture is set, the foundation holds, the authority is transferred, and final. #tag outro.
Wow, okay. We have covered an incredible amount of ground in this deep dive. We went from the fiery appearance of the Ancient of Days to mapping the cherubim as this mobile engine.
Correlated those cosmic layers, Hades, the glass sea, angel heaven with the physical tabernacle blueprint.
Right, the altar, the laver, the holy place. And then we landed right at the heart of it, the mercy seat over the law, showing that governance is founded on love and justice.
And the overarching synthesis seems pretty clear, doesn't it? This eternal structure of divine authority was, in a sense, projected onto space-time through the tabernacle model. Why? To facilitate the plan of atonement.
Which required the Son, the second person, to step down into our reality, become a creature.
Take the judgment fire himself.
And through that perfect obedience, earn the right to administer all authority and justice.
Exactly. And the source material really brings it down to a fundamental choice for every human being. You're faced with this reality. You can either essentially choose to participate in the rebellion, in Satan's sin, and face that same judgment fire.
The fate Matthew 25 describes, prepared for the devil and his angels.
Or you choose the other path. Take up your cross, as Jesus said in Matthew 10, and follow the Son.
And following the Son leads where?
To freedom. Freedom from the law of sin and death, as Romans 8 puts it. The ultimate victory over death itself, which 1 Corinthians 15 celebrates.
And that's not just a hope, it's guaranteed.
Guaranteed by the Holy Spirit living within believers, Romans 8 again. He's the seal, the down payment, the guarantee of our resurrection because Christ was resurrected. The whole architecture of the throne we've discussed is the ultimate surety that this redemption plan is fixed, final, and trustworthy.
Okay, so if the cosmic structure is settled, if all authority now rests with the Son who won it through loving obedience, here's the final thought, the challenge maybe for you listening.
Yeah.
We saw the bedrock of that divine throne is righteousness and justice, but it all flows from the commandment of love. 1 John chapter 4 really emphasizes this.
Love is the core principle.
So if the infinite creator entered your reality, your space-time, endured judgment, and secured redemption based on that principle of love, what does it actually mean for you right now as a creature living in time to align your own will, your choices, your relationships, your daily actions with that same foundation?
That's the question, isn't it? The celestial architecture is incredibly complex, awe-inspiring. But the resultant command, the implication for us, is remarkably simple, though profound.
Also,
The ultimate knowledge isn't just intellectually grasping how the cherubim function or mapping Hades. It's about living the principle that anchors it all. As 1 John 3 puts it, believing in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and loving one another just as he commanded us.
that act of love.
That act of love, grounded in faith in the Son, becomes the living connection. It's the link between our lives down here in the outer court of creation and the very heart of reality, the divine throne. It's about living the foundation.